with a few weeks away from free agency, Klay Thompson did something we thought would never happen in this lifetime. He just recently unfollowed Golden State on IG and deleted all the photos and content that had everything to do with the Warriors, including all championship photos he shared with both Steph and Draymond. After 11 seasons of wearing the gold and blue, Klay Thompson will reportedly be testing free agency for the very first time in his career. And based on the recent reports that are coming out as well as his weird behavior recently, his departure from the Bay Area looks inevitable as the days go by. When Draymond invited Klay to his podcast, he opened up about why he struggled early this season, and he cited that his contract situation has a lot to do with it.
I was actually struggling with that a lot in the beginning of this year because of the unknown, you know? I mean, I might have let contract situations or playing time or just making up a lot of excuses rather than just appreciating what is in front of me. And it took me and Steve like 4 real heart-to-heart talks to finally break my shell, being like, you know what? I gotta have fun this year. I deserve to have fun. Like, we worked so hard to, like, look, I can still be a heck of a player. I can still be incredibly efficient. And as long as I'm having fun and being a good teammate, and you actually helped me a ton when you're like, lean into these young guys, lean into the fact you're a vet, you made X amount of money, you don't have to worry about nothing, like you're playing for the love of the game. And I think once I realized that and I relaxed a little bit rather than trying to play for a contract or an all-star nod or some accolade, but rather just play for the love of the game. And that's the beauty of the game right there. Not trying to get another max deal or another endorsement.
See, reports have said that the Dubs offered Klay a 2-year, $48 million extension last summer. But as we all know, he turned it down because he kinda used this season as leverage to get himself a better deal. However, as Klay said earlier, his plan backfired as the pressure to perform on his contract year got into his head so much to the point that he was playing garbage basketball during the early parts of the season. And although he was able to climb his way back from the slump he was having, Klay went down in the worst possible way when he went scoreless against the Kings in their final game of the season. Now, after that game, reporters asked Draymond about what the Dubs should do to bring Klay back, and here's where things might start to fall apart.
How vocal will you be about the need to bring Klay back? I mean, that's kind of the biggest question lingering.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we want Klay back. It's obvious that we want to continue what we've been doing, but I understand he got a decision to make. He's going to make the best decision for him. Team got a decision to make. They'll make the best decision for the team. But, I have no doubt that even if, which I don't think there's any scenario where Klay leaves and that's the best decision for this team and organization. But what I don't doubt is if Joe or Mike or anybody felt that it was best that this team moves forward without Klay, that wouldn't be the decision they make because they believe that. They've shown nothing but respect, loyalty, love, trust to us. So I got no reason to go into it like, oh man, they're not going to do right by Klay. They did right by me. They've done right by Steph. They've done right by all of us. Klay tore his ACL. They paid him $160 million.
As you heard from the clip, Draymond said with a straight face in the last part, Klay tore his ACL and they gave him $160 million. Now, I don't know if Draymond was being low-key sarcastic when he said that, but based on the context of it, I think it came from a good place and he was just praising the Dubs organization for taking care of them when the going got tough. Well, that's just my 2 cents. However, someone took offense to what Draymond said. News sources have said that Klay took Draymond's comment with a grain of salt and reportedly wasn't happy about what came out of his mouth. Now, when reporters asked his opinion about it, Klay was like, Could you imagine if they didn't pay me after I got hurt? That would have been really bad. 5 straight finals and you blow your knee out? Yeah, sorry. Reports also have said that Draymond's comment might be one of the triggers that really set things off for Klay, apart from the fact that the Dubs are not likely to entertain his counteroffer. Speaking of which, rumors have been going around that Klay is asking for an offer of at least 3 years. But see, as lucrative as that kind of deal is for Klay, it wouldn't fit with the timeline window that the Dubs are laying out. See, Steph is under contract for 2 more seasons, and although Draymond signed a 4-year, $100 million contract extension last year, that deal has a player option on the 3rd year, and this certainly has ties to what happens with Steph by that time. And lastly, they re-signed Steve Kerr mid-season by giving him another 2-year contract, worth $35 million. I mean, Klay asking for 3 years while the rest of the core guys are basically under contract for 2 years just doesn't match. And I believe this is the biggest reason why the two parties can't see eye to eye. Anyway, with this being said, along with the other factors that I mentioned earlier, I really believe that Klay will leave Golden State based on what he said in his interview with Draymond.
And in saying that, when it comes to free agency in July, I just got to keep that in mind. Like, yes, I want to re-sign with the Dubs, but I also have to prioritize my mental health and, lay out what is important to me at this point in my career.
I mean, Klay said, yes, he wants to re-sign with the Dubs, but he also said, I gotta prioritize my mental health and lay out what is important for me at this point of my career. Based on what he said, I think Klay was trying to say that he has already done what had to be done with the Warriors. I mean, 4 championships, a 5-time All-Star, and one half of the greatest shooting backcourt in NBA history. Klay has already cemented a Hall of Fame career even though his playing days are far from over. Like, he has nothing to prove at this point in his career, and now he feels like it's time to do his own thing without riding the coattails of Steph and Draymond. Now, another reason why I think Klay will definitely leave the Bay Area is that he felt a bit disrespected by the Dubs because although he worked his butt off and even got injured in the process just to give them 4 championships, he never got the same respect as Steph and Draymond do this past season. And this is heavily reflected in the way the Dubs are handling his contract situation.
And I want to say this, it's not just about the actual dollars. It's also about the respect that Klay wants to be paid. Now, we just saw those numbers, 18 points a game, 39% from 3-point range. That's a valuable player.
Yes,
that player is a $20 million player in today's NBA, under certain circumstances, maybe even more. But the thing with Klay won't just necessarily be the money. It will also be the years. How many years would you be willing to give?
Yep.
And the role. They've got young players who play his position. Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody. Klay got benched at the end of some games last year. What's his role going to be? All of those things come into play.
And what role is he comfortable playing right now in his career?
Absolutely. So what I would say is, just because he did this doesn't mean that he's leaving. But it does mean that we're on brass tacks, and it's going to get a little bit rocky, I think.
I mean, the Warriors quickly re-signed Steph, Draymond, and Wiggs at a fair price. But when Klay felt that he was worth more than $24 million a year, the Dubs only said this is the only offer that we could do. Take it or leave it, without trying to come up with a deal that suggests they want to have him back, or at least encourage him to stay. To me, Klay deleting every link or connection that he had with the Dubs was the last straw. Like, he just sent a strong message that he doesn't want to get involved with them anymore. And no matter how Draymond tries his best to de-escalate the tension by saying,
I know all of you were probably looking forward to me talking about Klay unfollowing the Warriors and deleting some IG posts or something. I had no idea that happened. I think it's fucking hilarious. Just so y'all know, I laughed when I logged on here and Jackson's like, yo, so what about Klay? I'm like, what? Like, what happened? He's like, oh, he unfollowed the Warriors. I think that's comical. I know you all be wanting like somebody's feelings to be hurt or something. It ain't that, ain't never gonna be that.
The damage has already been done, and Klay ain't gonna come back. Now, I know most of the guys are sad that the band is gonna break up and we won't be seeing the three of them riding off into the sunset together. But history tells us that this kind of thing is pretty normal and usually happens to teams that have already achieved their goals and served their purpose. See, aside from the Spurs' big three of Parker, Duncan, and Ginobili, super teams with big threes of their own have frequently disbanded right after winning a championship or two. I mean, even the mighty Bulls went their separate ways after their dynasty fell during the latter part of the 90s. Anyway, with this being said, the good thing for Klay is despite undergoing major injuries, he proved that he can still contribute at a high level with his outside sniping, which is an extremely valuable skill that is quite in demand in today's NBA. And according to several sources, the Orlando Magic have shown interest in adding Klay to their roster filled with talented young guns and blooming superstars led by Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. Ranked in the bottom part of the heap in terms of three-point field goals made, three-point field goals attempted, and three-point percentage, Klay's lethal outside shooting can definitely help out the Magic in these areas, as he can be the designated floor spacer whenever Banchero, Wagner, or Fultz draw the defense during their inside attacks. Though Klay had a subpar performance last season, he still ended up with decent numbers, averaging almost 18 points per game on 43, 38, 92 shooting. So in some way, I think Klay can still help out teams in a big way offensively, regardless of whether he's going to be part of the starting lineup or part of the bench unit. Anyway, the bottom line is I think Klay felt a bit betrayed and disrespected by the Dubs, to the point that he has no other recourse but to pack his bags and go. Now, on the other hand, going elsewhere is not a bad option at all for Klay because it allows him to have an opportunity to negotiate for better pay as well as expand his role as a reliable veteran. At the end of the day, the NBA is a business, and if Klay values money over loyalty, then so be it, since that's his personal decision and you can't say anything bad about him because he has done his part and, more importantly, done it the right way with the Warriors.